مشاهدينا الكرام في كل مكان، اهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم عبر شاشه النداء الازرق. نحييكم اليوم عبر هذه المساحه الخاصه من فندق السلام روتانا مع السفاره الروانديه التي تحتفي بيوم 4 من يوليو، وهو يوم يصادف يوم التحرير من كل عام. يعني تحتفل من خلاله هذه السفاره في الخرطوم، وتحتفل فيه دائما دوله رواندا بيوم التحرير. مجموعه من المساحات الخاصه ليوم التحرير مع دوله رواندا ومع سفاره رواندا اليوم من خلال هذه المساحه. اهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم.
Singing the national anthem, beginning with the national anthem for Rwanda, followed by the Sudan national anthem with support of instruments. Immediately after the national anthem, we will be called on to view a short video on Rwanda. After watching the video, we will then invite His Excellency Abel Buhungu, Head of Rwanda Diplomatic Mission in the Sudan, to give his remarks. Shortly after these remarks of the head of the Rwanda Diplomatic Mission in Sudan, there will be a short performance by the Rwanda Cultural Troupe. His Excellency, the head of Rwanda Diplomatic Mission in Sudan, will then introduce the guest of honor and invite him to the podium to give his remarks. We shall then have both head of mission and the guest of honor lead us in cutting the cake to mark the revelation anniversary. With this brief introduction of the ceremony and the program, I would then call upon the team there to lead us into singing the Rwanda national anthem, followed by the national anthem for the Sudan. You are welcome.
Rwanda nziza gihugu cyacu, uje imisozi ibiyaga n'ibirunga, ngo byiduhetse nahoranisha. Reka tukurate tukuvuge ibigwi, wowe tubumbiye hamwe twese abanyarwanda uko watubyaye. Berwa sugira singizwa iteka, komeza imihigo Rwanda dukunda, tuhagurukiye kukwitangira, w'amahoro asabe mu bagutuye. Wishyire wizane muri byose, urangwe n'ishyakutera imbere, uhari umubano n'amahanga yose, maze ijambo ryawe riguhe ijambo.
نحن جند الله جند الوطن، ادعى داعي الفداء لن نخن، نتحدى الموت عند المحن، نشتري المجد بأغلى ثمن. هذه الأرض لنا فليعش سوداننا علما بين الأمم. يا بني السودان هذا رمزكم، يحمل العتق ويحمي أرضكم.
Rwanda, often referred to as the land of 1,000 hills, is regularly identified as one of the fastest growing countries in Africa. The World Economic Forum ranks Rwanda as the 9th safest country in the world, and the World Bank says it's the second easiest place to do business in Africa. In this mini economic documentary, the second of our Africa Rising series, we dive into the Rwanda of today and tomorrow and examine the progress being made as the city draws inspiration from Singapore.
We are very close to Singapore. We work very closely with them. So what we do is like we go out and do some shopping. We go to countries and look at the things we like, and not only the things we like, but things that may work for us. And then we choose. So in our shopping process, we liked what we saw in Singapore. And so given the good relationship we had, we learned a few things and worked together, and some of the things shaped around that.
Paul Kagame has been at the helm of Rwanda for 21 years, and the miraculous economic recovery after the devastating 1994 genocide has gone down in the history books as a success story directly linked to his leadership. In a 2015 constitutional referendum, Rwandans voted overwhelmingly to allow Kagame to stand again for office beyond the end of his second mandate, which ended in 2017. Kagame won the subsequent elections in a landslide, and in theory he could run twice again, keeping him in power until 2034, although his current term ends in 2024.
Geography is always important for context. Rwanda is just below the equator and is surrounded by 4 other countries, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Tanzania, and Burundi, and Lake Kivu to the west, which they share with the DRC. Rwanda is landlocked, and all goods from abroad must be brought in from the port of Mombasa in Kenya or Dar es Salaam in Tanzania.
Being landlocked has helped us to think smarter and harder how we manage this. And 2 things come out. One is about regional integration that we have emphasized and is working, bringing together the 5 countries of 150 million people. It helps Rwanda to easily do business with these with these countries and within this market. The second we have targeted, again relating to competitiveness, is what are the things we should be doing or producing that have high value and therefore more or less render irrelevant the problem of being landlocked. In fact, that's why we have emphasized investments in technology, in services, in knowledge, because most of what you get from this is not that sensitive to how far you are from the ports through which you have to export some of the things.
Kigali is the capital city, home to 1 million people, and from there the country is divided into 5 provinces with a wide network of paved roads that reach just about every corner of the country and essentially all stem off Kigali. The country's road network is celebrated as one of the best in Africa, with Rwanda ranked just below Namibia and South Africa for the last 6 years, a position they are determined not only to maintain, but to elevate. The Ministry of Infrastructure under Honourable Minister Clever Gatete is currently working to upgrade the roads across the country.
We want all the roads in the country to become tarmac, and also we want to make sure that there is street lights on all the roads that we have. So the ones that are starting now, they come with the lights for safety, but also to make sure that really it's not just building the roads, but it has all the components. The old ones, we have now projects that we are being implemented right now to make sure that we can put street lights on all the old roads that have been put in place.
Minister Gatete is driving a number of infrastructure projects very hard, including a regional rail transport system in collaboration with the African Development Bank and Tanzania, as well as the development of ports along Lake Kivu to enhance water transport opportunities. Energy provision is imperative, and the country is still on track to achieve 100% access to energy provision across the country by 2024.
Of course, we are impacted by COVID-19, and this has slowed down a lot of issues since the beginning of last year. But of course, infrastructure has to continue. Our strategy for making sure that we have 100% access to energy by 2024, we are on track. At the end of mid next year, we'll be at 74%. Because we've been implementing all the transmission lines, taking all the energy from their source, and also making sure they are transported, and then we are putting in place substations and distribution networks. It's the hydro the renewable energy that is dominating in terms of the energy mix, of our energy mix. We are putting transmission lines that go up to the level where we can be able to trade with our neighbors. On energy, we are making very, very serious steps in terms of making sure that we have enough energy and making sure that we can also distribute the energy. The rest is the efficiency which we are working on, and we are making quite significant progress also in that area.
One of the biggest projects is a brand new international airport currently under construction that has land allocation twice the size of London's Heathrow.
We're really focused on connecting Rwanda to the rest of the world for tourism, for trade, for economic reasons, diplomatic reasons, but also to position Kigali as a hub that will connect all the other African countries to the continent. And to that end, there's the big project right now to build the new airport in Gesera, which will have a traffic of about 7 million passengers in the first phase of operations. So that's really exciting because it affords Rwanda an opportunity to really expand as an airline. We've been growing relatively fast before the COVID pandemic, and as most airlines across the world, we've been impacted. We had to stop for about 5 months, but we restarted in August last year, really focusing on reviewing our network. We started with the African routes. And then opened up some of our long-haul routes as well. Unfortunately, with all the recurring COVID restrictions, a lot of our long-haul routes are affected, like London, Mumbai, and Gwangju. But we're still really focused on growing our African footprint.
Rwanda is establishing itself as a global hub for conferences and events, with Kigali regularly winning global awards as a top meetings and international conference destination. Digital innovation and a progressive ICT environment are synonymous with Rwanda, and Kigali Innovation City is the government's flagship program to create a high-tech ecosystem centered around innovation and talent. Innovation City has the potential to transform the country into East Africa's tech and business hub.
On the fact and the understanding that ICT and innovation are a critical driver for growth for our country. The trends we see in terms of the impact of technology, not just for Rwanda, but for the continent, is in the energy sector, agriculture, healthcare, and not looking at technology as a siloed standalone industry, but really looking at it as an enabler for growth and productivity across these various sectors. We've positioned ourselves as a proof of concept market. But what that means is, how do we become a technology and innovation hub for the continent where novel innovative ideas are birthed, but then also with the mindset of scaling them to the rest of the continent? Because if I unlock, the provision of quality healthcare in Rwanda, that need and challenge across the continent is similar. And so we should be able to provide scalability in responding to challenges that are not just unique to Rwanda, but also to the continent. The proof of concept vision that we have, when I talked about the ability to birth ideas and scale them to the rest of the continent. And I'll start with where we are today in terms of Rwanda being, a logistics and financial hub for the Eastern and Central African region. A lot of this has been enabled by, some of the trade facilitation instruments in place where, the removal of tariffs has enabled us to really become a logistics and financial hub. And so really looking at what is it today that has positioned us as a hub on the Eastern African region, as well as Central African region, and leveraging that to take advantage of these increased trade flows or markets that are being opened up by, being part of the CFTA agreement. Now, Obviously, you also look at, with all these increasingly liberalized markets, how are we providing access to some of our businesses so they're able to scale beyond what they're currently doing just within the Eastern Central African corridor. I'll just take an example of the Kigali International Financial Center today that has been set up. And what it's really doing is to mobilize capital, not just to invest and finance in projects that are being done in Rwanda, but projects across the continent that are creating impact across the continent with the ability to establish their headquarters here in Rwanda.
We need financial centers that offer connectivity within Africa and connectivity outside Africa. That's why at Kigali International Financial Center, we are now members of the World Alliance of International Financial Centers, because we believe that through partnership, then we serve global needs, global investment much better. It's why at Kigali International Financial Center, beyond being members of the World Alliance of International Financial Centers, we've also signed strategic partnerships, both with African IFCs such as Casablanca, and the pace is growing, as well as the Belgian Financial Center, and we are looking to expand that network, because once we do that, then we are able to give connectivity for flow of capital and investments. Equally important is ease of operations. In Rwanda, when we talk about ease of operation, we're saying, how is it easy to come to Rwanda? That's why today we talk about a visa regime that facilitates acquisition of visa on arrival for more than 100 nationalities. That's why we have special visa regime for entrepreneurs, for young graduates that are graduating from international universities that are in Rwanda, but also beyond that. That's why we talk about free ownership of property, absence of restrictions on capital repatriation, on forex exchange. That's what we believe global investors are looking for. And that's the vision of Kigali International Financial Center.
Talking about companies operating with ease in Rwanda, MTN Rwanda recently listed on the Rwandan Stock Exchange, demonstrating that it is committed to increasing local participation in the company.
It's something that we've been looking forward to in the market for quite some time. You see, MTN at a group level has always had the intention to increase local participation in our companies across our entire footprint. And Rwanda, I'll have you know, is the third operation out of the whole MTN group to list on a local stock exchange. And the intention for us was really to deepen participation in the capital market, invite a whole lot more Rwandans, local investors to participate in the company. And by so doing, eventually and inevitably, also contributing somewhat to the socio-economic development of Rwanda.
For us to have MTN, now it has made it to the top of the list of the local domestic companies listed on our exchange. So now it's the biggest by market cap. So that's a very big excitement to have a bigger brand like that, but also having access to the investment like that for the investors. It has brought a lot of traction to our investing public, and people are inquiring, more people are trying to get associated with that. It's a very exciting moment for us.
But as in every part of the world, the lockdown and social distancing measures, which were critical to control the COVID-19 pandemic, saw GDP slow in 2020. But it remains the fact that Rwanda is one of the fastest growing economies in the world over the past 25 years.
Rwanda's strong economic growth has been accompanied by substantial improvements in living standards, with a 2/3 drop in child mortality and near universal primary school enrollment.
To help government prevent, detect and respond to the threat posed by the pandemic and strengthen national systems for public health preparedness, the World Bank Group provided $14.25 million in International Development Association credits in immediate funding to an operation in Rwanda, the COVID-19 Emergency Response Project.
Tourism has been the leading foreign exchange earner for Rwanda in recent years. COVID devastated the sector, but the government has responded by creating opportunities for domestic tourism by lowering hotel prices and trekking prices even as it seeks to attract international tourists once again. Agriculture is the main economic activity in Rwanda, with 70% of the population engaged in the sector. Tea and coffee are the major exports, with Rwanda supplying 21,000 tons of coffee to the global market in 2019, and ranking as about the world's 30th top coffee supplier globally. Now, after 2 decades of targeted investment by industry leaders, Rwandan coffee is supplying top brands like Starbucks. Rwanda's business-friendly reforms are yielding fruit, with Volkswagen setting up a manufacturing plant in the country with a $20 million investment and the potential to create 1,000 jobs. Despite low car ownership in Rwanda, VW hopes to both sell vehicles and use them in an Uber-like car-sharing system that will allow people to book rides using their smartphones. Some will also be sold into neighboring nations.
In October 2019, Mara Phones opened a $100 million manufacturing plant in Rwanda.
I'm pleased to join you here today to launch the Mara Phones factory, which is the first of its kind in our continent. The Mara phone joins the growing list of high-quality products that are made in our country.
As the world starts opening up following the COVID-19 pandemic and the African Continental Free Trade Area becomes further entrenched, remarkable Rwanda is set to continue to go from strength to strength and play a starring role as Africa itself continues to rise.
الفيديو هو من الأفلام الوثائقية الاقتصادية، تصدر عن سلسلة بحوث اقتصادية على المنبر الأفريقي. يقوم بها باحثان هما الأول برونير نيلسون، مؤسس لشركة شبكة نيلسون، الثاني البروفيسور أدريان سافيل من المركز الأفريقي للإدارة والأسواق. بدأ الفيديو بسرد تصانيف دولية عن جمهورية رواندا. أشار إلى أن رواندا مشهورة بأنها أرض ذات 1000 تلة. صنفها المنتدى الاقتصادي العالمي في المرتبة 9 بين أكثر البلدان أمانا في العالم. ويقول البنك الدولي أن رواندا هي ثاني أسهل مكان لممارسة الأعمال التجارية في أفريقيا. في هذا الإصدار الباحثان يسلطان الضوء في الإنجازات التي حققتها رواندا في الحاضر وطموحاتها المستقبلية. وفي البدء يذكران أن رواندا اتخذت سنغافورة نموذجا تقتدي بها في التقدم والنهضة والنمو الاقتصادي. يقول رئيس الجمهورية السيد بول كاغامي: نحن قريبون جدا من سنغافورة، نحن نعمل بشكل وثيق معها. ما نفعله هو أننا نخرج ونقوم ببعض التسوق لأشياء نحبها، ويبدو الأمر كما لو أننا نذهب إلى البلدان ثم ننظر فيها إلى الأشياء التي نحبها، وليس فقط الأشياء التي نحبها ولكن أيضا الأشياء التي قد تناسبنا، ثم نختار. فلذلك عملية التسوق بالنسبة لنا أحببنا ما رأيناه في سنغافورة. الجغرافيا مهمة دائما للسياق، ورواندا أقل بقليل من خط الاستواء، وتتحدث عنها 4 بلدان أخرى، وهي جمهورية الكونغو وأوغندا وتنزانيا وبوروندي وبحيرة كيفو إلى الغرب التي تشترك فيها مع جمهورية الكونغو الديمقراطية. رواندا دولة داخلية ليس لها ميناء على المحيط، ويجب جلب جميع البضائع من الخارج من موانئ مومباسا في كينيا أو دار السلام في تنزانيا. يقول الرئيس كاغامي في هذا الخصوص: لقد ساعدنا كوننا في منطقة مغلقة على التفكير بشكل أكثر ذكاء وكيفية التعامل مع هذا الوضع وإيجاد حلول لهذا. ألزمنا نفسنا أمران: الأول التكافل الإقليمي مع الجيران، حيث نستغل فرصة ممارسة أعمال تجارية بسهولة مع البلدان المجاورة والتي تصل سكانها حوالي 150 مليون نسمة.
والثاني التفكير في الأشياء التي يجب أن نقوم بها أو ننتجها والتي لها قيمة عالية وبالتالي لا تقل أهمية عن مشكلة كوننا محاصرين في الواقع. هذا هو السبب في أننا أكدنا في الاستثمار في التكنولوجيا والخدمات، لأن معظم ما تحصل عليه من هذه لا يتأثر بمدى بعدك عن الموانئ. المشاريع المنجزة والتي على قيد الإنشاء: شبكة الطرق الممهدة التي تصل إلى جميع 5 محافظات. يمتاز رواندا بأفضل شبكات الطرق في أفريقيا، حيث احتلت المركز الثالث بعد ناميبيا وجنوب أفريقيا على مدى 6 سنوات ماضية. يقود الوزير جاتيتي عددا من المشروعات البنية التحتية بجدية شديدة، بما في ذلك نظام النقل بالسكك الحديدية الإقليمي بالتعاون مع بنك التنمية الأفريقي وتنزانيا. كذلك إنشاء الموانئ على بحيرة كيفو لتعزيز فرص النقل المائي. ويعد توفير الطاقة أمرا ضروريا، ويسير البلد على تحقيق وصول بنسبة 100% إلى توفير الطاقة في جميع أنحاء البلاد بحلول عام 2024. ووضعنا خطة استراتيجية للتأكد من حصولنا على الطاقة بنسبة 100% بحلول عام 2024. إنشاء المطار الدولي الجديد في بوغسيرا الذي تم تخصيص أرضه ضعف مساحة مطار هيثرو بلندن. نركز على ربط رواندا ببقية العالم لأغراض السياحة والتجارة والاقتصاد والدبلوماسية. في عام 2020 تظل رواندا من بين الاقتصادات السريعة النمو في العالم على مدى السنوات 25 الماضية. تعتبر الزراعة النشاط الاقتصادي الرئيس في رواندا، حيث يعمل 70% من سكانها في هذا القطاع. ويعد الشاي والقهوة أهم الصادرات، حيث قامت رواندا بتوريد 21 ألف طن من القهوة إلى الأسواق العالمية في العام 2019. مع أفضل الإصلاحات الاقتصادية في رواندا، أنشأت شركة فولكس واجن مصنعا في البلاد باستثمارات تبلغ 20 مليون دولار وإمكانية خلق 1000 فرصة عمل على الرغم من المستويات المنخفضة لملكية السيارات في رواندا. في أكتوبر عام 2019 افتتحت شركة مارا فونس مصنعا في رواندا بقيمة 100 مليون دولار لتصنيع هواتف ذكية. قال الرئيس بول كاغامي في مراسم تدشين المصنع: يسعدني أن أنضم إليكم اليوم لإطلاق مصنع مار فونس، وهو الأول من نوعه في قارتنا أفريقيا.
It is an honor for me to welcome you all to this celebration of Rwanda's 27th liberation anniversary of All Kwibohola 27 in our vernacular. I wish to appreciate and thank the guest of honor, His Excellency Hassan Abdul Salam Omar, Director of the Department of Africa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Sudan, for gracing this important occasion. Nationally, the Liberation Day in Rwanda is celebrated on 4th of July of each year, a day when both Rwandans and friends pay tribute to the men and women united under the Rwanda Patriotic Front, whose selfless efforts of bravery helped stop the 1994 genocide against Tutsi after Rwanda's 100 darkest days that began on the 7th of April 1994. It is a day our beloved country was liberated, heralding a new chapter of rebuilding our nation. Indeed, the sacrifices and heroism of these men and women saved Rwanda from degenerating to a failed state. Yet, these acts of sacrifice and valor also account for the impressive progress ushered in across all sectors from the bottomless pit that the country was in 27 years ago. The 4th of July instills a determination in Rwandans to continue doing what is right for motherland and all Rwandans in general. It is a time that remind us to never relent in fighting anything that will take us back into the darkest chapter of our history. Yes, it is a time for reflecting and recommitting to sustainably build and reinforce Rwandan unity for generations to come. It is a time for assessing our objectives and ensuring they are duly informed by the challenges of the day. It is a time to reinvigorate the overarching ambition to deliver to the aspirations of all Rwandans. This year's liberation is celebrated under the theme, Together We Prosper. Guests of honor, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the first fruits of the seeds of segregation and ethnic-based hatred were harvested back in the 1959 political turmoil, which resulted in thousands of deaths, as well as a mass movement of thousands of our own nationals into neighboring countries, DRC, Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania, and other countries outside our region. Following Rwanda's independence in 1962, Rwandans lost an immense opportunity of building a peaceful, stable, united, and progressive country. Those who lived in Rwanda after 1959 suffered cyclic waves of ethnic-based killings and wanton exclusion based on the region of origin. Consequently, by 1990, Rwandans were not only intolerably impoverished, but also a polarized society. The liberation struggle launched in October 1990 by the Rwanda Patriotic Front under the able command of His Excellency President Paul Kagame was thus imperatively set in motion by objective conditions of the time. The planning and preparation of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi that was intensified from 1991 was a climax of the ethnic-based extremist ideology whose seeds were planted by our colonialists. During the 1994 genocide, over 1 million Tutsis and some moderate Hutus were butchered in only 3 months by the then government. Before the genocide began, the RPF had signed the Arusha Peace Agreement with the then government in the hope that Rwanda's problems could be peacefully resolved through a transitional government. On 7th of April 1994, when the genocide began, the true motives of the genocidal regime became very clear. In order to save lives, the RPF soldiers moved quickly to try and save the country from total destruction. They were heroically able to stop the genocide against Tutsi and liberating the entire country by 4th of July, and thus the reason we are here. A government of national unity, which included members of the old government with no known role in the genocide, was henceforth established. A new national army, likewise, the Rwanda Defense Force, was created by integrating the RPF soldiers together with members of former armed forces of Rwanda, ex-FAR, who had no known role or direct individual role in the genocide. Guests of honor, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the heroic feat by the RPF on 4th July represented the rebirth of our nation by ushering in a great opportunity to rebuild our country. This is despite the enormous challenges that faced the new leadership after the 4th of July 1994. The government of national unity inherited a pseudo-failed state, with the economy having grown at negative 11.4% in 1994. Life expectancy was at a desperate 27 years, and over a third of the population were now refugees. At least about 3 million were refugees. Confronting these challenges and many more was a mammoth task that the new government of national unity had to deal with. In the aftermath of the 1994 genocide, Rwandans made 3 very important choices. 1, we chose to stay together. 2, we chose to be accountable. And 3, we chose to think big. These choices were aimed at creating our own dignity and establishing a larger national sense of purpose. 27 years later, Rwandans are today more hopeful and confident about their future and that of the generations to come. This is thanks to a leadership that puts security and welfare of all Rwandans at the forefront of all policy formulation. Effective execution of these policies has given Rwandans an equal and immense opportunity, as well as earning them the dignity they so yearned and deserve. Indeed, under the able leadership of President Paul Kagame, Rwanda has since the end of the genocide made leaps and bounds in her entire political and socio-economic ecosystem to the benefit of all Rwandans. Rwanda's achievements since the end of the genocide also relate to ably confronting the colossal challenges that faced the country. These include, but are not limited to, 1, rebuilding of unity and reconciling Rwandans after the destruction of the nation's moral fabric by the genocide. 2, establishing sanity and stability within Rwanda. 3, return and reintegration of millions of refugees. 4, initiating and delivering restorative justice, covering over 1 million genocide suspects through the homegrown Gacaca justice system. 5, delivering a universal health care, which is currently at covering about 95% of our entire population. 6, delivering universal primary and secondary education. 7, diversification and growth of the economy, with the tourism emerging as our top foreign exchange earner until the recent interruption by COVID-19, which is a major threat to all global economies. 8, reinvigoration of the mining sector with some fair level of value addition. 9, growing the economy for 15 years until 2018 by an average of 7% to 8%, as well as by 8.6% in 2019. It was expected to grow by over 10% in 2020 had it not been for COVID-19. Increasing the per capita income to $830 by 2020 from a meager $200 in the year 2000. 11, meeting all UN Millennium Development Goals before transitioning to the Sustainable Development Goals. 12, establishing and strengthening good governance and institutions of accountability. 13, achieving gender equality, with women now comprising 61% of parliament, 53% of cabinet, and equal access to education. 14, funding for the most vulnerable among Rwandans, including genocide survivors as well as orphans and widows. 15, increasing life expectancy from 27 years of 1994 to now 67 years. 16, instituting as well as strengthening democracy, and 18, widening and deepening bilateral relations within the global fraternity. Guests of honor, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the commendable progress despite earlier monumental challenges has come by due to a focused leadership, resilience of Rwandans, and an effective government that, among others, saw the initiation and fair execution of Vision 2020. According to the IMF and the Rwandan Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, the economy is on an upward mend and is estimated to grow by 5.1% in 2021, as well as by 7% in 2022. Certainly this could only be undone by COVID-19. We hope we'll manage to pull through. Post-2020, the main driver of economic recovery is incapacitated in Vision 2050, in which Rwanda aspires to reach middle-income country status by 2035 and high-income country status by 2050. The excellent milestones registered under Vision 2020 offer an excellent source of faith and hope for realizing the new development plan Vision 2050, very ambitious as it may seem. Because of the many progressive policies initiated and implemented, Rwanda has repeatedly earned herself favorable rankings by global acclaimed institutions. A few of those worth citing include: 1, the World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Report of 2015, which ranked government of Rwanda as Africa's most efficient government and 7th globally. 2, the Global Law and Order Report, which ranked it as the 2nd safest place in Africa and 11th globally, Gallup Law and Order Index 2018 report. 3, the International Congress and Conventions Association, ICCA, in 2020, rated Kigali as the 2nd most popular destination for conferences and events on the continent after Cape Town, South Africa. 4, the World Economic Forum Report 2020 ranked it 7th globally in bridging the gender gap. 5, it was ranked 2nd in Africa and 39th globally as the easiest place to do business, Doing Business Report, World Bank 2020. 6, rated 3rd in Africa and 49th globally list corrupt country, Corruption Perception Index, Transparency International 2020. The World Justice Project, WJP, rated it 2nd in Africa after Namibia and 37th globally in the Rule of Law Index 2020. 8, in relation to the COVID pandemic, it was in August 2020 given a World Travel and Tourism, WTTC, Safe Travel stamp, certifying it as a safe destination for travelers owing to her observance of global standardized health and hygiene protocols. And finally, number 9, in May 2021, Rwanda was globally listed among a few countries whose citizens can travel to the EU region without prior proof of COVID-19 vaccination, but only a valid COVID-19 negative certificate. This is in recognition of her strict observance of global standards in fighting COVID-19. Guests of honor, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with the current phase of our liberation journey, Rwanda positively counts on friends and partners. To all representatives of the various countries present here today, your support and friendship with the people of Rwanda is of great value to us. In the same vein, I wish to take this opportunity to thank the people and government of the Republic of Sudan for their continued friendship and cooperation. Our growing bilateral relationship is anchored in shared values and vision between both countries. I wish to note here that both countries have formalized cooperation through signed MOUs and agreements in certain areas of mutual interest. More of such MOUs are under consideration by both countries for the mutual benefit of the citizens of both countries once fully implemented. We have seen exchange of high-level visits, the most recent being in April, end of April, beginning of May this year, by the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I'm happy to note and thank the guest of honor because he was part of the delegation. This underlines the value attached to this valuable relationship, which is mutually beneficial to both countries. With economic development having taken center stage to date, as well as an excellent and secure business climate in Rwanda, I wish to encourage Sudan-based investors and tourists to visit, explore, enjoy, and seriously target the enormous potential in Rwanda for their own benefit, as well as that of both countries. Guests of honor, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today, Rwandans are by far our biggest resource. Indeed, we are today celebrating their sacrifices, heroism, and great achievements. This is all thanks to our leadership's vision, resilience of Rwandans, and overarching unity of purpose and ambition, as well as the urge for dignity and the determination to achieve an all-round liberation. I wish to end my remarks with words from His Excellency President Paul Kagame. His remarks during Rwanda's Liberation Day back in 2012. Words that are just as relevant today as they were then, and I quote, "As we begin the next stage of our journey, we will continue to entrench the values that have brought us this far: unity, hard work, mutual respect, and shared responsibility." Murakoze cyane. God bless you all. Allah yubariki.
ضيف شرف أصحاب السعادة السفراء ورؤساء المنظمات الإقليمية والدولية، السيدات والسادة المحترمون، إنه لشرف لي أن أرحب بكم جميعا في هذا الاحتفال بالذكرى السنوية 27 لتحرير رواندا. أود أن أشكر ضيف الشرف سعادة السفير حسن عبد السلام عمر، مدير إدارة أفريقيا بوزارة الخارجية السودانية، على تكريمه لهذه المناسبة الهامة. يتم الاحتفال بعيد تحرير هذا العام تحت شعار معا نزدهر. على الصعيد الوطني يتم الاحتفال بيوم التحرير في رواندا في 4 يوليو سنويا، يشيد فيه كل من الروانديين والأصدقاء بالرجال والنساء المنتسبين للجبهة الوطنية الرواندية. ضيف الشرف أصحاب السعادة السفراء ورؤساء المنظمات الإقليمية والدولية، السيدات والسادة المحترمون، لقد تم حصاد أولى ثمار بذور التفرقة المبنية على العنصرية والكراهية في الاضطرابات السياسية عام 59 900 و1000، التي أسفرت عن آلاف القتلى بالإضافة إلى هروب عشرات آلاف من التوتسي إلى البلاد المجاورة. فالذين عاشوا في رواندا بعد عام 59 900 و1000، وخاصة بعد استقلال رواندا في عام 62 900 و1000، عانوا من موجات دورية من القتل العرقي والإقصاء التعسفي والتي بلغ ذروتها إلى الإبادة الجماعية ضد التوتسي التي بدأت في 7 أبريل عام 94 و900 وألف، وتم ذبح أكثر من 1,000,000 من التوتسي وبعض الهوتو المعتدلين في 3 أشهر فقط. ضيف الشرف، أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة المحترمون، بدأ نضال تحرير رواندا الذي أقامه الجبهة الوطنية الرواندية في أكتوبر من عام 900 وألف تحت القيادة المقتدرة لفخامة الرئيس بول كاغامي، وتمكن بشكل بطولي على وقف الإبادة الجماعية ضد التوتسي وتحرير البلاد بأكملها في 4 يوليو 94 وألف. والواقع أن تضحيات هؤلاء الرجال والنساء أنقذت رواندا من الانحدار إلى دولة فاشلة. فهذه التضحية الشجاعة هي المستند الحقيقي للتقدم والازدهار المثير للإعجاب الذي نتمتع به في جميع القطاعات منذ 27 عاما. في أعقاب الإبادة الجماعية ضد التوتسي عام 94 اتخذ الروانديون 3 خيارات مهمة للغاية. اخترنا البقاء والتعايش معا، أن نتحمل المسؤولية، التفكير بشكل كبير. هذه الخيارات كانت تهدف إلى إعادة كرامتنا وإرساء شعور وطني. ها هي بعد 27 عاما فقط أصبح الروانديون اليوم أكثر تفاؤلا وبثقة تامة بمستقبلهم ومستقبل الأجيال القادمة. تحت القيادة المقتدرة للرئيس بول كاغامي حققت رواندا منذ نهاية الإبادة الجماعية قفزات كبيرة في نظامها السياسي والاجتماعي والاقتصادي بأكمله لصالح جميع الروانديين. وتشمل هذه الإنجازات على سبيل المثال للحصر إعادة بناء الوحدة الوطنية، المصالحة العامة بين الروانديين، وإعادة ملايين اللاجئين وإدماجهم، إقامة العدالة التصالحية تشمل أكثر من 1,000,000 مشتبه به في ارتكابهم جرائم إبادة جماعية من خلال نظام العدالة المحلي التقليدي، توفير الرعاية الصحية الشاملة التي تضم الآن حوالي 95% من السكان، توفير التعليم الابتدائي والثانوي للجميع مجانا، وتنويع الاقتصاد ونموه مع ظهور السياحة كأكبر مصدر للعملات الأجنبية. ضيف الشرف، أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة المحترمون، لقد تحققنا التقدم الجدير بالثناء بفضل القيادة المركزة ومرونة الروانديين والحكومة الرشيدة التي أنجزت الكثير من المبادرات، ومن بينها إنجاز رؤية 2020، وتم تجسيد المحرك الرئيسي للانتعاش الاقتصادي في رؤية 2050، حيث تطمح رواندا للوصول إلى حالة البلد متوسط الدخل بحلول عام 2035 وحالة الدولة ذات الدخل المرتفع بحلول عام 2050. ضيف الشرف، أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة المحترمون، مع المرحلة الحالية خلال المضي قدما في التحرير، تعتمد رواندا بشكل إيجابي على الأصدقاء والشركاء لجميع ممثلي البلدان الحاضرين هنا اليوم، فإن دعمكم وصداقتكم مع شعب رواندا لها قيمة كبيرة بالنسبة لنا. وفي السياق ذاته أود أن أغتنم هذه الفرصة لأشكر شعب وحكومة جمهورية السودان على صداقتهم وتعاونهم المتواصل، وترتكز علاقتنا الثنائية المتنامية على القيم والرؤية المشتركة بين البلدين. لقد شهدنا تبادلا للزيارات رفيعة المستوى، كان آخرها في أبريل مايو من هذا العام لما زارت معالي وزيرة الخارجية لرواندا، وهذا يؤكد العلاقة القيمة والتي تعود بالفائدة على كلا البلدين. ضيف الشرف، أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة المحترمون، أود أن أنهي كلامي باقتباس من تصريحات فخامة الرئيس بول كاغامي خلال يوم تحرير رواندا عام 2012، كلمات عزيزة الأهمية اليوم كما كانت في ذلك الوقت، وأقتبس: بينما نبدأ المرحلة التالية من رحلتنا سنستمر في ترسيخ القيم التي أوصلتنا إلى هذا الحد: الوحدة الوطنية والعمل الجاد والاحترام المتبادل والمسؤولية المشتركة. شكرا.
Excellency, the head of the Rwandan diplomatic mission, Excellencies, head of the Excellency ambassadors, head of the diplomatic mission and representative of international and regional organizations, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am truly honored to stand before you this evening representing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the government of the Republic of Sudan as a guest of honor on the occasion of liberation and stopping of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in the sisterly Republic of Rwanda. I would like also to take this opportunity to extend the congratulations of the people and the government of the Republic of Sudan to the people and the government of the Republic of the Republic of Rwanda on this important event, wishing all progress and prosperity. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Rwanda has indeed admirably proved to the whole world that it is possible to rise again from the pain and the deep social rift caused by genocide and to start rebuilding a stronger and more sustainable society and prosperous nation in the state of the world. Rwanda survived its genocide ordeal to become a beacon of hope, justice, peace, and tolerance, and a successful story of national reconciliation, and to be emulated by many countries worldwide. Rwanda's role in making peace transcended its boundaries to many African countries, helping in resolving conflicts and peacekeeping in many remote areas in our continent. This includes their appreciated role in keeping peace in our beloved Darfur region. In Sudan, we believe that we can benefit a lot. We can benefit a lot from Rwanda's successful experience in the areas of transitional justice and reconciliation, leadership and governance, economic development, and gender equality to face the challenges of the democratic transition in our country. Sudan is also looking to benefit from a Rwandan experience or Rwanda experience in combating the pandemic of COVID-19 and to cooperate fully with Rwanda in all global areas on shared goal of peace, security, and welfare of our nation and continent. I would like to take the chance to thank you all and congratulate Rwanda on this event. Thank you very much for your attention.
سعادة السفير محمد بالعيش رئيس مكتب اتصال الاتحاد الأفريقي في السودان، سعادة السفراء ورؤساء البعثات الدبلوماسية وممثلو المنظمات الدولية والإقليمية، الضيوف الكرام، السيدات والسادة، يشرفني حقا أن أقف أمامكم هذا المساء ممثلا لوزارة الخارجية وحكومة جمهورية السودان كضيف شرف بمناسبة تحرير ووقف الإبادة الجماعية ضد التوتسي عام 94 وألف في جمهورية رواندا الشقيقة. كما أود أن أغتنم هذه الفرصة لأتقدم بتهنئة شعب وحكومة جمهورية السودان للشعب وحكومة رواندا على هذا الحدث الهام، وتمنيا للجميع التقدم والازدهار. أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة الضيوف الكرام، لقد أثبتت رواندا بالفعل وبشكل مثير للإعجاب للعالم أجمع أنه من الممكن النهوض مرة أخرى من الألم والصدع الاجتماعي العميق الذي تسبب فيه الإبادة الجماعية، والبدء في إعادة بناء مجتمع أقوى وأكثر استدامة وأمة مزدهرة بدلا من المجتمع القديم. نجت رواندا من محنة الإبادة الجماعية لتصبح منارة للأمل والعدالة والسلام والتسامح، وقصة ناجحة للمصالحة الوطنية تحاكيها العديد من البلدان في جميع أنحاء العالم. لقد تجاوز دور رواندا في صنع السلام حدودها إلى العديد من البلدان الأفريقية، وساعد في حل النزاعات وحفظ السلام في العديد من المناطق النائية في قارتنا، وهذا يشمل دورها المقدر في حفظ السلام في منطقة دارفور الحبيبة. في السودان أعتقد أننا يمكننا الاستفادة كثيرا من تجربة رواندا الناجحة في مجالات العدالة الانتقالية والمصالحة والقيادة والحكم والتنمية الاقتصادية والمساواة بين الجنسين لمواجهة تحديات التحول الديمقراطي في البلاد. يتطلع السودان أيضا إلى الاستفادة من تجربة رواندا في مكافحة جائحة كوفيد-19 والتعاون مع رواندا في جميع المجالات العالمية بشأن الأهداف المشتركة للسلام والأمن والرفاهية لدولنا والقارة. تهانينا مرة أخرى وشكرا لكم جميعا على اهتمامكم.
يوم عظيم من خلاله استطاع الروانديون أن يتخلصوا من 100 يوم من الاضطهاد و100 يوم أيضا من الإبادة الجماعية. وصل من خلالها بول كاغامي رئيسا لدولة رواندا، وهي تحتفل الآن بوصولها لمجموعة كبيرة جدا من الإنجازات ومن التنمية استعرضوها من خلال فيديو موضح هذه التفاصيل، إضافة أيضا إلى كلمات مختلفة وحضور كبير طبعا على رأسه السفير الرواندي في الخرطوم وممثل أيضا للحكومة السودانية وهو سفيرنا حسن عبد السلام، وأيضا حضور كبير للجالية الرواندية الموجودة هنا في الخرطوم والتي شاركت أيضا برقصة استعراضية من خلال هذا الحفل. هذه تحياتي حذيفة عبد الله وتحيات الفريق العام، نشكركم على طيب المتابعة، كل أمنياتنا دائما بالتوفيق والسداد بالنسبة لدولة رواندا الشقيقة، ودائما تمنياتنا لها بالاستقرار والنجاح ودوام التفوق في كل المجالات. لجديد الملتقى، في أمان الله.